Moving on to our next speaker, disobedience and chaos. These are bad things, right? He doesn't think so. And I can't argue with him because he's published over 700 papers in peer-reviewed journals. I try and remember our speakers' accreditations and all of their details off by heart, but sometimes they have so many that it's quite difficult to do. Our next speaker is Hans Wigzell. He has held the distinguished academic positions of Chairman of the Nobel Prize Committee at Karolinska Institutet, as well as President of the Institute itself and Professor of Immunology at the Karolinska Institute too. Today, he's adjunct professor at the Institute of Human Virology at the University of Baltimore and external advisory professor at Ehime University in Japan. Wigzell is also a member of a number of boards, including Karolinska Development AB, BioVitrum AB, Intercell in Vienna, Apogee in the US, UMABS in Switzerland, and is the chairman of the board of the SSES. So you can't blame me for not remembering that all off by heart, right? But please join me in welcoming Hans Wigzell.
The organizers are cowards, because actually I just came from New York and they asked me, would I mind that they play this tune? And it's called The Needy Girl. So I answered, no, I don't worry, signed The Needy Boy. So universities are very established organizations. It's impossible virtually to close them down. They are worse than churches, right? But they're very stable organizations, and it also means that there is a sort of bureaucracy. The European ones, the Swedish ones, on public government, they are looking upwards to the government, okay? And the challenge for these universities right now is to understand that the world is changing. That actually akademos, if you do that translation, in Greek means above the people, okay? And a university which stays separate from the people is lost, okay? So I'll share with you some of my sort of experiences in this field. I'm still a scientist and the like. So first of all, a university needs, like any organization, needs a vision and a mission. And we didn't have that. So we actually spent some time, and it was pretty simple. We should work for, let's say, for research, education, and information about medicine to help human health. Very simple. And then, in essence, within that kind of ruling, I said everything is allowed, provided it has quality and things like that. Okay, that's the vision. Okay, so let's encourage that kind. In other words, trying to decentralize authority, trying to give power out in the organization, because a university is contaminated with enemies. What kind of enemies? There are enemies within. These are, for instance, wrongly hired administrators. Administrators, which they say, consider that as scientists, Karolinska say research intensive, are a pain in the neck. They don't behave, okay? They should behave, okay? And they are wrongly recruited because I think the first dominant question when you recruit an administrator, and good administrators are fantastic. They should be like hockey stars, okay? They very seldom are. You should actually ask the person, why do you come here? And unless they say, I love what you're doing, you shouldn't go on to the next step and look at the CV, okay? And I've seen situations, let's say, with the wrong lawyers being hired, and nothing comes out of that organization. Everything is impossible. And then you fire that lawyer, and then you get another lawyer who is very instant, and then everything close to, everything is possible. So simplistic rules and the like, okay? That's very, very important. And I also stressed very much, I think that don't encourage the thinking of ethics, of moral. That right moral, in my mind, overrules stupid laws and should be defended. And take a fight for that if you feel that there are stupid laws, okay? But you will be supported because society in general is sane and rational, okay? So Don't take it. And there's a beautiful book by Albert Camus many years ago called The Rebellion, which shows that if you want to maintain your own personal integrity at a certain level, you have to make a rebellion, okay? So, academic freedom. Oh, is it free? Well, it's only free actually if you can defend it, if you can actually sort of get money, get resources, these kind of things. And you should do something else as well. Okay. Thank you very much. And you have to know that that's actually, money is becoming a more and more important thing because public sector money relative to free money is going down. Power players are coming at, in our case, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Wellcome Foundation, can actually chase in front of them WHO organization and governments and all these kinds of things. And unless you understand the change of society, you will not actually sort of be able to maneuver. And in this thing of the scientists, research scientists, they are more and more on their own. They are more and more have to be entrepreneurial. They have to be innovative. They have to see, let's say, how they communicate with society. And they will be dependent on their own activities. A professor at the Karolinska Institutet right now has something like 11% of the salaries paid by the university. The rest have been made on their own by various protocols, okay? And I encourage that, okay? There is also the other presidents of other universities. They are also enemies frequently. Not always, but frequently. Many of them would say, let's join together and divide the cake. You do this and we do this, okay? And it's complete nonsense. There is no special cake. The cake is all over the place, okay? Global, whatever, okay? And competition, local competition, should be fierce and very good. Actually, local competition, let's say, between Volvo and Scania made that we have super truck companies in this world, for instance, okay? Should be encouraged, okay? Really, really good, okay? Cambridge University, the chancellor, I met him the first time and he said, what are you doing? I said, my whole work, I'm defending chaos. Because chaos, that's actually creativity where things can sort of move out, okay? Excessive central control destroys. It could be economically beneficial. Singapore is a country which is economically successful. I've been an advisor for them for several years. They're very good in the economic development, but they are largely failing in creativity. That's in part because there's too much centralized sort of directives and moves, okay? You have to give away, you have to dare, you have to do chaos. Otherwise, it's like when you try to breed cats in clean rooms. They don't breed. You have to throw in carpets, boxes, dark corners, then they breed, okay? Same thing with creativity. So that's part. So, and then another thing which one should do with regard to creativity is actually to understand we are primates. We are human primates, okay? That actually means, let's say that in many ways we try to move in an ordered way. When I was working in England many years ago, and the researchers came together from various departments in the pubs. British science is considered to be the most creative per pound, per currency, than any country. I think I found out on the Fridays, because here came in the professor of zoophysiology, and the professor of, let's say, immunology, and the zoophysiology, after a couple of glasses, charges on the immunology, said, the salamander proves that you are wrong. Okay, and then they started an enormous argument, heated argument. Monday morning, I see the professor of immunology coming to the lab. I'm going to show that damn bastard that he was wrong. It has introduced lateral thinking. It has relieved things, okay? Creativity can actually also be supported by disease. Daydreaming. Disease like fever, okay, makes you actually move in a detached way. So it's not a waste of time, okay? Certain diseases should be avoided, sure. But otherwise it's not bad to disrupt your continuous sort of situation. Creative strategy is becoming crucial. You have to know the society. I, as a president of a state university, was introducing situations which were not covered by the Swedish university law. okay? But I got them accepted. How? Because I went through the actual handling of strategy. If I would have asked for permission, it will go to a civil servant in the ministry who would go up and argue with the minister that they should be given me permission. If I, on the other hand, inform what I have done, the civil servant have to go up to the minister and argue that I have done wrong. That's very seldom happens. It revealed at the same time a Sicilian element in the Swedish law and the government system. After 90 days, if they haven't complained, it was okay. It was correct. Okay? Very interesting. So don't ask for permission. Inform what you have done. Was a very efficient one. Another one, I was sort of advising the Swedish Prime Minister and the ministers, and I wanted them to change certain things. Sort of politicians need to get glory. They are focused on re-election. Okay? You cannot spoon feed them. I wanted at one time that we should give 1% of our national budget to research. Okay? So what did I do? I didn't tell the minister to do it. I talked about what other countries were doing in indirect ways. And also I said Sao Paulo, for instance, had the commercial tax and things. Suddenly, the minister came, by the way, Hans, we should maybe go 1%. Oh, fantastic idea. His name was Leif Pagrotsky. Very good, very good. Yes, I think it's a very good idea. Okay? And, of course, no. So they should get the glory. And it was, I think, quite successful. Okay. So then another one is to keep the sort of speed up. You have to decentralize authority because you never know nowadays when suddenly an opportunity comes. It may come at a dinner table. You're sitting beside someone. He or she asks, what are you doing? Unless you're prepared to tell what you're doing as a scientist now in an excited way, like you talk to your grandmother. I mean, in cartoon-like things, okay? If you start to talk about in a sophisticated way to get academic, Yak9 into Stat9, 3 to say mathematics system, they'll get bored stiff. But if you tell them, I'm curing cancer, or some simple way, and then get them excited, fantastic. Works well, okay. So that's one part. Innovation. I put a lot of efforts into innovation, okay? This Stockholm School of Entrepreneurship, I was very happy to help when it started some 11 years ago now soon. Also with regard to other innovation. I told the people it's unethical of a scientist at Karolinska not to support that their research comes into application, means commercialization. We were allowed to start a sort of holding company, but then we have to raise some money and the like. And I remember when we started, because I tried to get sort of new startup companies for all these people that make dissertations. 50% want to stay in research, 8% can stay on in research, academic, right? We needed to raise money on very early projects. The venture capital guy said, it's too early, Hans. Well, the mezzanine capital is not around. I had no idea what the mezzanine capital was. But I was thinking, and then I said, let's fly to Jönköping. And they said, Hans, are you crazy? No. I say, listen, there are a lot of people, very good entrepreneurs, private people who made a way. It's the most religious spot in Sweden. A lot of charities, so we flew down there, okay? And I still always get moved, right? We meet these people, they were very happy that we came from the capital and Karolinska, and they were sitting there, and I identified the alpha male, which was, sort of particularly one of these guys, right? And he said, after some time, we had cinnamon buns and coffee, in a rather frugal, semi-religious-like looking room. He said, I understand that this is risky, but I think I will move in. And then he added, and if it goes wrong and I lose my money, I've been in for a good cause. And then they all nodded. And the Karolinska Development was founded by these people. And 10 years later, when we went public, now in April, okay, I went down there and thanked them. And they had actually stayed on all the time and added on. So these guys have invested about 200 million Swedish crowns altogether, okay? Very, and the bank guy, when I flew home, from Jönköping. He didn't curse down there, but he said, when we were up in the plane, hell, Hans, I never believed that we could do it like this. So that means understand what's going on. In the end, I had listened to what was said about music and the like here in the end. We had a beautiful seminar last year when some people had looked into music, dancing, and every single human groups, Greenland, Aborigines in Australia, forest, rainforest, they dance. Okay? So these guys were looking at evolution and the brain. So they said, let's look at the primates, gorillas, bonobos, chimps, orangutans. They played music. Nothing. They went on the other sort of cats, dogs, nothing. And they thought at one time that maybe, let's say, they were alone, until one of these scientists was starting to act in serendipity, came into contact with the world outside and the enormous things. And what did he come in contact with? Let me say it's like this. Have you the sound? Put on the sound. We are not alone. The parrots can dance, loves music, and have a language. It gave them actually, the scientists, an understanding of the parallel evolution of the brain of the parrots and the brain of the human beings, which will probably lead to medicine in life. This is Snowball biting the dust. And he had been given as a sort of pet animal away. And he was now, and they took him out and cleaned the room. And look at Pet Snowball. He's not bad, huh? If you increase the speed, he will dance even better. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you.
What do you say after that? That's great. I want to move straight to questions from the floor, if we have any. Emma, Nils, have we received anything on Twitter or via the SMS line?
No,
not at the moment.
You haven't been asking enough.
They're all stunned.
Yeah. Hans, what interests me is, we have organizations that want to change. They want to try new things. They want to embrace this disobedience and this chaos and this creativity. But they also worry about their existing operations and the impact that could have. What's the best way for you to make those experiments, to embrace that creativity without risking what you're currently doing?
No, that's a very, very relevant question. It's actually say, you have to contain positive incitements. It has also to be commonly publicly stated by the leadership that to commit errors, which failed within the law, so to say, is okay. And also, let's say, to in essence support own initiatives. Okay, all kinds of initiatives. And I was surprised. We took some of the young tigers or tigresses, right?
Yes.
Research group leaders, and said, we're going to give you a 2-year course about life and society. And there were 24 of them. And when I met them first, I said, why should we do this, Hans? Only one of us has a full-time salary from the Karolinska. The others, we have to work on our own. And I said, we're doing it for you, right? We're doing it for you. And when I left, I was pretty disillusioned initially. Yeah. Then after 2 years, we had this sort of signing off. They have spent on the average 60 days on these things. We send them out on what they consider heartbreaking things, okay? 3 guys, super-duper sort of aggressive scientists, was sent out to a retail shop to actually go through the shops and see how could they actually start to support science. And they said, but Hans, we don't know how to do that. And of course I said, that's the point of all of this, to talk. And it was and they created a network, and these so-called young Turks, or whatever they should call them, they became department leaders extremely fast and actually most efficient. So in other words, to support them and tell them that if you do like this, there's a lot of possibilities out there, okay?
Right. Okay. You know, it's our instinct as animals is to hang on to things. When we discover things, we want to protect them from other people. We see this in corporate environments, and you spoke now about the importance of opening up, about sharing. How does that impact on, you know, corporate ideas around IP, for example, which is something that in academia is very structured as well, and not structured so much for sharing?
Well, we have, of course, in the innovation part, if I would broaden the question, we have what is called teacher's exemption, that the scientists own their own IP rights, so they can go wherever they like. Turns, of course, out that if you, in the Nobel Prize committee work, the most crucial information, who has done what, is not coming from the scientific article, but going through the patency claims.
Okay.
Yeah, because if they lie in the patency claims, the patent will be invalidated.
Right. Interesting.
Okay. So there is a lot of extra dimensions on this.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing at the moment big corporates fighting these patent battles very openly and publicly and very disruptively. What's your take on that environment? How do we arrive at this stage, and how do we get past it? It seems to be stifling innovation.
I think it's yes and no. I have no simple answer. All I know is that in many situations, the value of a patent in complicated biological situations is overvalued. And the software knowledge behind is actually that is of value, okay?
Right.
But from the point of view of raising venture capital money, IP rights are, of course, important. We have a problem in Sweden because the Swedish word for venture capital, you know, is riskkapital. Which is stupid. It should be framtidskapital, right? So, you know, if you want the pension funds to put in and the politician to use the pension funds for riskkapital, stupid. But for framtidskapital, wow, would be great.
Fantastic. Any questions from the floor yet? Emma, Nils?
We have somebody asking about the innovation model at KI, interested in what you're talking about and how much innovation is happening and passion. But how is this reflected at KI at the moment?
Well, we have, of course, a situation where we were initially allowed to do this kind of tech transfer holding company in 1996. We got 5 million crowns cash, but no support. And a couple of years, a lot of work went into funding that part. I think that what has happened, and is happening, we get in about close to between 50 and 100 new projects each year to be evaluated. And in the Karolinska Development, which is now this Nasdaq stock exchange where I'm chairing that part, we have some 40 companies. And about 35% of them come from the Karolinska. We have opened the funnel, so we take most Nordic universities. And I think that's one big experiment, actually, to see, let's say, how you can create new companies, because in Sweden, you know, we largely lost. We lost Pharmacia, and we largely lost also the Astra component. So we have a lot of competence in people leaving the big pharma, but we have a need to start up to create new companies.
Great. Hans, please stay on the stage.